God bless.
God bless.
Once you join us, you must remain.
Yes.
Work means serving God.
How have you spent your life so far? You must have a boyfriend. Someone who loves you.
No.
You're not telling the truth. I can see it in your eyes. I can see it in your soul.
Te quiero.
The truth will set you free.
I'm so sorry they brought you here as well.
I joined up to find you.
It's an entire system of tunnels. There's like a whole secret world going on underneath.
You're planning to escape?
You can't see because your eyes are blind. You can't feel because their hearts are made of stone. Lord Almighty.
Come on!
Lord Almighty! Open the doors. Open the door! Your eyes! Your eyes!
It's okay. The Lord loves us deeply.
Whether you have been hip to the Luciferian jive for many years now, or if you are slowly starting to wake up, I am thankful for many of you out there who are helping others to see through the lies, to see through the programming, the propaganda that we are being bombarded with on a daily basis, through movies, TV shows, children's cartoons, books, music videos, what have you. Major themes are being pushed onto us. They want us to accept, this new world order that is coming. They want us to accept their Luciferian occultic agenda, and I'm thankful that so many are just not buying it, that so many are seeing right through the lies. And yet another movie that I stumbled across this past weekend was called Colonia, starring Emma Watson, Daniel Bruhl, and Michael Nyqvist. The acting was excellent, the story was very well done, but this movie came out not too long ago, in April of 2015, and I was just floored by the New World Order, Nazi, Hunger Games propaganda that was literally shown in this movie, and the fact that they even torture people to conform to what the leaders of this cult want them to be like. So, I really want to expose some of these things, and it's actually based on a true story. This Colonia is based right in the country of Chile. It's a real colony that still exists to this day, and so it is. This film is loosely based on these true events. And if you go to IMDb, it just gives you a little bit of a synopsis. A young woman's desperate search for her abducted boyfriend that draws her into the infamous Colonia Dignidad, a sect nobody has ever escaped from. Okay, and it goes on further to say that Lena and Daniel, a young couple entangled in the Chilean military coup of 1973, Daniel is abducted by Pinochet's secret police, and Lena tracks him to a sealed-off area in the south of the country called Colonia Dignidad. The Colonia represents itself as a charitable mission run by lay preacher Paul Schaefer, but in fact is a place nobody has ever escaped from. Lena decides to join the cult in order to find Daniel, and it's based on true events. So what I'd like to do is show you some articles, some history, and some screenshots that I was able to capture. Forgive me if I spoil anything for you. If you're already planning on seeing this movie, I would suggest that you do see it anyways. It's very interesting, the themes that are portrayed. But if we go to Wikipedia, we can see even the history of this place. Okay, so its current organization occupies the infamous and disgraced Colonia Dignidad. Okay, it's based in Chile. It's located in an isolated area. Okay, it was founded by German immigrants in the mid-1950s, to which were added a group led by its eventual leader Paul Schaefer in 1961. The full name of the colony is such and such, okay, and it's the largest. At its largest, the colony was home to some 300 German and Chilean residents and covered 137 square kilometers. Okay, the main legal economic activity of the colony, remember that legal economic activity was agriculture. At various periods, it was also home to a school, a hospital, 2 airstrips, a restaurant, and a power station. Okay, so their longest leader was the Schaefer character, a fugitive accused of child molestation charges in the former West Germany. The organization he led in Chile was described alternately as a cult or as a group of harmless eccentrics. The organization was secretive, and the Colonia was surrounded by barbed wire fences and featured a watchtower and searchlights. Very interesting. I'm sure you're already thinking FEMA camp, this New World Order agenda, Hunger Games, what have you, people, and basically surrounded by this kind of place and not able to get out. And we will talk about that a little later on. So this was later reported to contain secret weapons caches as well. In recent decades, external investigations, including efforts by the Chilean government, uncovered a history of criminal activity in the enclave, including child sexual abuse. Okay, so they also found, income related to weapon sales and money laundering. Okay, then people even did a piece on this, and individuals taken by Pinochet's Intelligentsia Nacional during his rule were held as prisoners at Colonia Dignidad. So this was the military dictator who took over, some of whom were subjected to torture, and that some Colonia residents were, of the time, participants in the atrocities. So some people in the colony were participating in the atrocities. Okay, so the population of the location was 198 as of 2002, but as of 2005, the colony remains on site, using the site with its leaders insisting that it is a different change organization. Its current leaders have attempted to modernize the colony, allowing residents to leave to study at university and opening the colony to tourism. So you can see that the colony is actually still there. They're claiming that it's different, but who knows, right? And the history says that the first inhabitants of Colonia Dignidad arrived in 1961, brought by German citizen Paul Schaefer, who was born in 1921 in the town of Siegburg near Bonn. Schaefer is a controversial figure. His first employment in Germany was as a welfare worker for children in an institution of the local church, a post from which he was fired at the end of the 40s. He then faced accusations of sexual abuse against children in his care. While these first reports led to his dismissal, no criminal proceedings were initiated. He worked next as an independent preacher, forming a community in this place in Germany, an organization dedicated to working with children at risk. He quickly acquired great influence over his members, who had to perform hard farm work without pay. Shortly thereafter, stories re-emerging relating to the earlier allegations of pedophilia against him. As a result, Schaefer organized in 1961 the emigration of several hundred members of their community to Chile. So basically, he was about to get caught. Allegations of pedophilia were coming out again, and he was able to emigrate himself as well as many of his cult members over to Chile. Okay, so the main intention of the colony was to project to the outside world an image of harmony, order, and inclusive system of communal work, collectivism directly in line with National Socialist policy. Sounds like New World Order Nazi kind of stuff. This was emphasized by the work of its own press operations, who were recording and broadcasting videos showing their happy residents amid celebrations and commemorations, men dedicated to farm work, women and girls embroidering or preparing butter. So we'll talk about this, basic propaganda that they like to put out later on. However, Schaefer propaganda efforts were again and again overshadowed by allegations of people escaping from the colony and obtaining asylum in Germany. The first, Wolfgang Müller, fled in 1966 and first exposed the atrocities that occurred within the colony. Müller obtained German citizenship and worked in a newspaper, soon becoming an activist in Germany against the leaders of Colonia Dignidad, and finally became the president of the foundation dedicated to the support of victims in Chile. And then it goes on to say later on, another person, Heinz Kuhn, also, confirmed these allegations. And the first allegations were rejected by politicians, so basically Paul Schaefer had a lot of influence and power over politicians, over lawmakers, even over governments of, countries, and were emphatically denied due to their ties with the management of the colony in their preparation of the military coup of September 11, 1973, as demonstrated later in the Chilean court case. So basically this military coup that happened in Chile in 1973, go figure, happened on September 11, 9/11, this infamous date that many things have seemed to happen on that date. Of course, the most famous one is 9/11/2001, the World Trade Center, and that horrible atrocity that took place. But go figure that this military coup also, began on September 11th in 1973 in Chile. And so basically, Pinochet, who was the military dictator who took over, says that the Reddick Commission noted a wealth of information supporting the accusations of the use of the laundry owned by Colonia Dignidad for detention and torture of political detainees during the period covered by this chapter, which is the Chilean military government 1970 onwards. This farm, commonly known as Colonia Dignidad, is within Parral on the banks of this river in Chile. The Commission has also noted that other sources, concluded Colonia Dignidad was used at least as a detention center for political prisoners. So basically, anyone who went against the military coup, who went against this military government or this dictatorship, was sent to this place, Colonia Dignidad. Among these sources are spokesmen for the government of the Federal Republic of Germany and the Working Group on Forced Disappearances of Persons of the United Nations. Okay, so then you can see, other things that were happening here. There was a democratic transition for Chile to turn into a democracy in 1990 after 17 years of dictatorship. Okay, but Colonia Dignidad remained unchanged. Allegations of abuses and humiliations that occurred inside the colony increased even. National and international pressure intensified, but each time the police tried to conduct an investigation at the site, they were greeted with a wall of silence. Colonia Dignidad authorities remained powerful and also had allies in the army and among the Chilean far right, who would warn them in advance when the police were preparing a site visit. And you see that even in the movie, that the colony is notified, even from people that are trying to flee. The German embassy, would even call the colony to tell them when someone's escaping. So you would see that basically this Paul Schaefer and the colony had a lot of power and influence. Okay, so life under Schaefer, the inhabitants lived under an abnormal authoritarian system where, in addition to minimal contact with the outside, Schaefer ordered the division of families. Parents did not talk to their children, nor did they know their siblings. So, something we'll talk about a little later on, how basically if the child is separated from the parents, they don't even know their siblings, they don't know their own parents, they're basically raised by the leadership. It is prohibited. All kinds of relations were prohibited, whether they're sentimental or conjugal, between adult men and women, okay, and enacted the residence of each sex in isolated areas, so they totally segregated men and women. Schaefer sexually abused children, and some were tortured, and it is clear from the statements of the German Dr. Gisela Seewald, who admitted the use of electroshock therapy and sedatives that her boss had claimed were placebos. And again, we will talk about these in a little later on. In stark contrast, however, the colony had a school and a hospital which offered support to rural families through free education, health services. This would ultimately have a support in case the colony was attacked. So they basically had a front to show that they had a hospital, they had a school, offered free education, just to make themselves look good. That was their front, but they were really doing other things there. However, there are many cases uncovered in recent years that refer to illegal adoption of children from families residing in the surrounding areas by the German hierarchy in order to deliver on the promise of free education. So again, you can see what is going on here. Then, of course, Paul Schaefer, much child molestation that he was involved with over there. In March 2005, he was arrested in Argentina and extradited back to Chile. Okay, so then it talks about the torture during the military dictatorship of Augusto Pinochet. The Colonia Dignidad served as a special torture center. In 1991, Chile's National Commission of Truth concluded that a certain number of people apprehended were really taken to Colonia Dignidad, held for prisoner there for some time, and that some of them were subjected to torture in this place. So we can see really what is going on here. There was also lots of people talking about member abuse. Some defectors in the colony have portrayed it as a cult in which the leader, Paul Schaefer, held the ultimate power. They claimed that the residents were never allowed to leave the colony and that they were strictly segregated by gender. Television, telephones, and calendars were banned. Residents worked wearing Bavarian peasant garb and sang German folk songs. So, Bavarian Illuminati, that as soon as I saw the word Bavarian, already Illuminati, themes and, ideas and symbolism even comes to mind. Sex was banned, with some residents forced to take drugs to reduce their desires. Drugs were also administered as a form of sedation, mostly to young girls, but also to males. Severe discipline in the forms of beatings and torture was commonplace. Schaefer insisted that discipline was spiritually enriching. Okay, so this is basically what was happening in the place. Even though they had a front of a hospital, of a school, of free education, this was really what was going on in the colony. There are more than 1,100 disappeared persons in Chile, many taken to the colony where they were tortured and killed. Okay, so you can again see really what's going on there. They also had weapons violations. They were caught with illegal weapons caches. Machine guns, automatic rifles, rocket launchers, tons of ammunition, grenades. All this kind of stuff going on. And they had Nazi ties. Both the CIA and this person have presented evidence of the presence at the colony of the infamous Nazi concentration camp Dr. Josef Mengele, known as the Angel of Death for his lethal experiments on human subjects during the Holocaust. So definitely the Nazis were involved in this in this colony in Chile. Okay, so basically this is what was going on, but this colony is still around. They're claiming that it is different now. So, this is basically, the history of this place. You can see what is really going on here. Even in a movie review I was able to find on Variety from the Toronto Film Review, they speak about this place, and it says the notion that any effort, sorry, I will go down a little bit further, where it says that at the outset, Lufthansa stewardess Lena Watson has barely deplaned a flight to 1973 Santiago before she spies her boyfriend Daniel, played by Brule, busily saving the world from her airport van. So basically Daniel, who's a German citizen, is basically got caught up. He's a German artist photographer who's been there a few months but has become embroiled in the movement supporting the progressive president Allende. So basically many of the citizens, most of the country is supporting this president. He's a good man, but then the president is overthrown by a military coup. Daniel finds himself identified as the leftist poster designer and is hauled off by Pinochet's forces. Lena figures out he's been taken to Colonia Dignidad, an innocuous-sounding but much-feared pseudo-religious community compound 200 miles to the south, where it's believed many political dissidents are tortured and killed. Such is Daniel's intended fate, but he survives his prolonged electroshock interrogation in the compound's secret tunnel labyrinth and is assigned grunt labor as a presumed newly made retard in the above-ground realm of Colonia, founder Paul Schaefer, played by Michael Nyquist. Schaefer is a self-styled minister whose strictly gendered segregated farm/retreat no one apparently ever leaves. If they try, electrified barbed wire fences offer a powerful dissuasion. Lena applies as a novitiate, learning quickly that this supposed place of worshipful retreat is more like 60% concentration camp meets 40% Jonestown. Women are ruthlessly subjugated and sometimes chosen for violent abuse at the evening men's gatherings. Headmistress Gisela hisses, "You look like a slut," at our heroine, who's dressed about as provocatively as Mary Poppins, then whips her when Lena has the nerve to almost faint from exhaustion during fieldwork. Meanwhile, Father Schaefer seems to have created a pederast paradise for himself with his pick of young boys he's had raised collectively, separated from their individual parents. So this is basically giving you a little bit of a synopsis of what was going on in this movie. Okay, you can see, there's talk about, basically Lena sees quickly that it's like a, basically a concentration camp, and then, the Jonestown cult revival, all that stuff going on, women ruthlessly treated, basically, Paul Schaefer has his pick of young boys, the things that he's doing, and talking about the, the military coup, that was taking place at the time in 1973. So, then even the torture and all these kinds of things, and then the main character of male Daniel, who was basically through shock therapy was made into something else, or at least, he basically put that on so that he would, basically stop being tortured. But this is what this place did, okay? And if we go into just some of the screenshots that I took from the trailers, basically it starts with this military coup. You can see the people basically being lined up here, throughout the place. Even if we go to, back to back to IMDb, they got some great shots of this military coup that took place, in I guess in the movie. Actually, there's Daniel there being part of the, of the movement that was in support of the president that everyone loved. He was, designing the art and posters and stuff like that. And then later on, you see them being rounded up here, as being shown in this particular shot. But, just really, really, sad what happened. Everyone being lined up. You're seeing, Daniel and Lena having to flee because of what was going on. Here he has a camera. He gets caught later on. As they've rounded up people, they take them into a stadium. Daniel gets basically hauled off, by the military. And, right in front of his girlfriend, right in front of Lena, he gets taken away, and she basically assumes that he has been taken to this colony. She's being told, actually, And this is where they arrive, at Colonia Dignidad, which is where Lena ends up going to try and find her boyfriend. Already when I saw this, just the gates of this place already to me scream Illuminati, New World Order. You've got major, triangle symbolism here. Okay, pyramidal triangle symbolism. You've got also even uncapped pyramids here, as you can see right in the gates, two uncapped pyramids kind of facing each other. Okay, one on top, one on the bottom, as above, so below kind of thing going on here. So this is just the gates of this place. You can see, what is going on, how this place already looks, Illuminati, New World Order style kind of stuff. You've got even, the cross, sun symbolism. The cross with the circle in the middle, to me, is again the sun symbolism. The cross of Tammuz. The fact that the cross is not a symbol of Christianity is becoming more and more evident to me as I look into these things. Okay, so we can see what is happening in this place. Daniel was taken in a van like this, which people would think is an ambulance, but it actually gets him taken right to this Colonia Dignidad. This is where Daniel was hauled off when he was taken away from in the stadium. With Lena there present, he was taken away in this. Lena, as she enters the colony very, very early on, as she's walking through the compound, she sees, the workers are cleaning off their van, which looks like a hospital van, but it's really used for other things as well. Okay, and then as she's sent to her, her room, you can see the very, very sparse quarters. Of course, again, the cross of Tammuz, the pagan symbol up there as well. She has to wear very, very plain, simple kinds of clothes. And, this is the kind of life that they live. They all basically have communal living. All the women, sleep in the same room. They all have just a bed. And again, simple, very, very simple quarters. They all have to wear, of course, their crosses and all this kind of stuff. As we keep going on throughout the movie, there are PA systems, basically all over the place, and floodlights so that people can't escape when they put these things on throughout the night. But everything is announced, through these speakers, through the PA system, whether it's meal times, whether it's time to get up, time for work, time for meals, time for break, this and this. Everything is announced through the PA system, very much like a jail, very much like a concentration camp, very similar to Hunger Games, all this kind of stuff going on in this movie. Of course, they're working, hard labor. All the women have to work in the field. Women, are picking potatoes or picking corn, or they're, doing embroidery, or they're the nurses. But everyone has their job, has their role. Again, totally, hive mind, New World Order kind of stuff being shown in this movie. Of course, there's Lena basically, joining because she is in search of her boyfriend. She wants to rescue him from this place. So there she is, with the crowd working. Of course, the leader for the women, this is the Paul Schaefer's right hand, which is Gisela. She is the one who is in charge of all the women. You see her leading, a service for the women as they do their prayers, and they all are very dedicated. But really, this just screams to me of just brainwashing and programming that these people have had to endure. Then, of course, as we saw in the Wikipedia history of this place, they were given drugs. They thought they were being given placebos. Even this Gisela thought that they were given placebos, but Paul Schaefer basically admitted that these were not placebos. These were sedatives. These were drugs to make people more docile, to basically to keep them ready, I guess, for whatever he wanted to use them for. Okay, so every night before they went to bed, they had, male and female, they had to take this particular pill. Okay, that was administered to them. If they didn't take it, they were in a lot of trouble. And of course, good old Gisela, the female leader, cracked the whip. When Lena was dying of thirst, one of her first days at work, she basically was whipped by this woman, because she needed a drink. She was about to collapse. But this is what this woman did to her, what Gisela did. So this is the way the workers were treated. There was excessive violence. Punishment was very severe. And what I found real interesting is when Lena gets to this place for the first time, she's taken in to see, of course, the leader, who is Paul Schaefer. And I found very interesting this particular room, or I guess his office, I guess you could say, on the colony premises. Right away, I saw, Illuminati, New World Order themes. You've got, of course, the checkerboard floor, the black and white, which is very much prevalent in the Masonic temples. They always have the checkerboard floor. Of course, you've got the cross of Tammuz. You've got even on the door that she enters to go into Paul Schaefer's actual office, you've got literally an upside down unfinished pyramid right here on the door. Okay. What I also found interesting was this particular symbol right on the wall. To me, I'm very certain this is one of the papal symbols, okay, right there showing. And what I found interesting is when I looked into that, you will see that this papal symbol is, in fact, one of those. Okay, so this is basically a symbol of the Pope. Many have used this, and this is a majorly Catholic symbol, and it is used much. And I found some interesting, facts about this particular symbol. And it talks about the Star of, it's basically like the Star of David deception. And as we scroll down, it's basically a representation of this, the hexagram, the Illuminati 666, New World Order devil symbol. And as we go down, we'll see, again, it lists even this particular symbol. You got even the Pope here. This was Pope Benedict. You've got the hexagram right there, the six-pointed star on his Dagon cap, basically the fish god Dagon on the papal hat that he wears. But the Roman Catholic Church key row symbol represents the hexagram. Okay, so that's what this is, the papal key row symbol. Okay, people think it's a cross, the cross of Christ, but it's really not, because again, as we showed before, that Christ was never crucified on a cross. Okay, we will see that later on. Okay, which we talked about actually even in a previous video I did. But the key row was the mark of the Roman Empire. It has 6 points which form a hexagram. The Roman Catholic Church uses the key row symbol as an alternative to the hexagram. Okay, so that is what I believe is being shown here. They're already giving it away, that the key row there, one of the papal symbols, is right there on the office of the leader Paul Schaefer, which to me is nothing more than the cross of Tammuz, which we covered before, okay, which is basically nowhere to be found. This cross is nowhere to be found in the New Testament. Christ was crucified on a upright pole or stake. The word stauros actually denotes an upright pole or stake. Okay, has nothing to do with the cross. This cross symbolism came from Constantine. It was a fallen angel occultic symbol that he was told to conquer in. It is a symbol of the sun god. Okay, the cross with the circle in it. Basically, many Catholic churches are showing the same symbol. Okay, the cross with the sun is basically all sun god symbolism. Okay, and again, they talk about this being this key row symbol that the church is using. It is nothing more than the cross of Tammuz, the pagan god. Another proof of its pagan origin is the identical found on the coin of Ptolemy III from the year 247 to 222 BC. A well-known encyclopedia describes the labarum, or the key row, as the labarum was also an emblem of the Chaldean Babylonian sky god, and in Christianity it was adopted. So Emperor Constantine adopted this labarum as an imperial ensign, and thereby succeeded in uniting both divisions of his troops, pagan and Christians, in a common worship. According to Saussure, the word labrum came into use in the reign of Hadrian and was probably adopted from one of the nations conquered by the Romans. It must be remembered that the Hadrian reigned in the years 76 to 138, that he was a pagan emperor, worshipped the sun deity Serapis when he visited Alexandria, and was vehemently anti-Judaistic, being responsible for the final near destruction of Jerusalem in the year 130. So we can see this cross is basically the cross of Tammuz. It has nothing to do with Christ. Christ was crucified on an upright stake or pole. This cross, especially with the circle in it, is the cross of Tammuz, or the symbol of the sun god. Okay, that is exactly, I believe, what we are seeing here. So they're already showing as she walks into this office, it's like she's walking into the presence of the sun god, into the presence of evil, okay, the presence of Antichrist. That's really, to me, what the Pope represents, is Antichrist spirit, and that's what this girl Lena is walking into as she meets Paul Schaefer for the first time. Okay, as she goes in there, she meets the leader, the cult leader. Here's Paul Schaefer being played by Michael Nyqvist. He did an excellent job playing this crazy character. Of course, again, you've got the cross of Tammuz symbolism right behind him. He basically says to Lena that he asks her all kinds of questions. He interrogates her. He asks her whether she has a boyfriend. He claims he can see right through her. He claims he has all these powers. So this character is very, very interesting. He's quite the freak. He's quite the fanatic. He really believes he's something special. He really believes he's like a god. He really believes that God's voice comes directly through him. He acts like he's a god, in this world, at least, to these people. He uses excessive force on women. If a woman is caught breaking any of the rules, this man, Paul Schaefer, beats them in front of all the men when they have their men's gatherings. I believe they have men's gatherings on a regular basis, but if a woman is caught breaking any of the rules, even a slight one, she is very much punished right in front of all the men, and all the men get in on it. After Paul has beaten the woman himself, Then he gets all the other men to basically get on top of that woman and beat her themselves, and it's just so horrible what was going on in this place. Yet again, another woman who was caught breaking some rules, and Paul, of course, has a ceremony, in the men's gathering to basically beat this woman as well. It was just so sad what women went through in this colony, and what I'm sure possibly could still be going on in this place. But again, major New World Order themes. This guy was such a lunatic, thinking there's a person here that was dead. He thought he had the power to raise people from the dead. He acted again like he was God. He is telling the men that, oh, this man is not raised up because there's still too much sin in the camp and all this kind of nonsense he's telling people. So again, major occultic Antichrist, papal, Catholic cult kind of nonsense that is going on. And again, I am not ridiculing Catholics. I know many Catholics who love Christ, who know the truth, who are not following a lot of the pagan doctrines that the Catholic Church promotes. But, sadly, the true Catholic doctrine is definitely not the same as true biblical doctrine. And this man is just constantly being shown as, quite the eccentric leader. He, does all kinds of crazy things. And, what's even worse about him is that he has this obsession for young boys. Just as was shown in Wikipedia, Paul Schaefer was already had allegations against him for pedophilia, for child molestation. There's a scene where he's conducting, the boys before they're about to take their shower. He's making them sing a song, basically some kind of Christian song. But of course, he dismisses these three to go take their shower. And what does he do? He goes and joins them in the shower. Thankfully, they don't show horrible scenes like that. They basically show him taking off his shoes and going into the shower with these boys, but they don't show anything further than that. But, just disturbing to see what this Paul Schaefer was really about. And again, you see people worshiping, this guy. You see them getting into all kinds of, crazy charismatic kind of things going on in this movie. People raising their arms and, doing all kinds of eccentric things in the services. Getting all riled up, basically riling themselves up into a frenzy. Even if you look at even in the women's services, you see the faces on these women, basically being so wound up, looking to like they're so devoted, but really it's all brainwashing, it's all mind control that I believe is being shown. They literally worship, this Paul Schaefer. They really believe he's something else, and he has a real power, over these people. Here he is again trying to, raise this man from the dead, saying that he is like God and saying that there's too much sin. That's why this man isn't being raised from the dead, when really this man has no power whatsoever. He is not preaching the true Christ. He is preaching the Antichrist. Okay, so that's what I believe is going on here. Later on we see, times where everyone looks happy. They're all waving flags, but they're only happy because if you watch this movie, you'll see they're being told what to do. There, of course, is a speaker system. They're being told what to do because basically a high-ranking visitor is about to come and visit the colony, which is none other than the military dictator himself. So people look to be happy. The people of the colony look to be happy. They're waving flags. Again, they're waving, the Chilean flag. They're waving also the German flag. So they're waving two flags, simultaneously, the German flag and the Chilean flag. I believe, something really big is going on here, which I will talk about in a bit. But of course, they're all being riled up for this person that comes to visit the colony. This man is the person who played the Chilean military dictator Pinochet. He came to test weapons. Him and the leader Paul Schaefer had a conversation that was about weapons. He was asking him when the weapons would be ready. They were even talking about poison gas. They were talking about all kinds of weapons cache. So you can see again, confirming what the history talked about this place. The weapons caches that were discovered in this colony. All this kind of stuff that was going on here. Then you've got the torture facilities that were happening. So even before we even get to the torture stuff, these people that, again, you can see the Germany flag, you can see the Chilean flag in this place. Again, this military dictator. I believe we are being shown something very significant here, which is basically something like this. Many of us remember Hitler and his regime, his Third Reich, and what he was trying to do, basically create a new world order. He was trying to create a perfect, pure kind of race, very, lots of racism going on here. In fact, when you look at this movie, it's all basically white people that are there in this colony. But again, I believe the fact that they're showing the German flag and the Chilean flag, to me, is showing a new world order, Nazi kind of takeover that is happening with this military guy. So to me, Hitler is being represented here, in this particular character, in this military dictator who takes over, the country. And, you've got Paul Schaefer with the German flag in the background, to me signifying, the German slash, not, I wouldn't say Germany, I have nothing against the country of Germany, is a great nation, but the Nazis were a horrible bunch of people. And, we know that Hitler had such a following. I mean, millions of people follow this man. I mean, there were oceans of people whenever we see footage of of their rallies, of the Nazi rallies. People followed this guy, people worship this guy like crazy. Again, you've got all the Nazi flags flying all over the place. But what I find real interesting about Hitler is that he always wore this particular cross. Now, it can seem like a Christian symbol again, but we know again that it is not a Christian symbol, that it is a pagan symbol of Tammuz. What I find even more interesting is that, the Pope was had relations with Hitler. Hitler constantly welcomed the Pope to Nazi Germany. And what I find extremely interesting is that this particular Pope of that day, in Hitler's day, was named Pope Pius. Okay, so what's even more interesting is that this Pope Pius, the name that the Pope went by in Hitler's day, would you believe that Paul Schaefer in the movie, guess what he is referred to as? They call him Pius. Okay, so Paul Schaefer, this cult leader, is actually called Pius in this movie, which to me is basically a cryptic representation of this Pope, of Pope Pius, that Hitler was, basically in relationship with. And I believe that we are being shown the fact that this is like, totally New World Order, medieval Catholic control, New World Order style stuff that is going on in this movie. You've got the military takeover, the martial law that ensued because of the military takeover. You've got the religious aspect with Paul Schaefer, to me, who was called Pius, representing to me, the Pope. Okay, that really is going on here. Again, we saw the papal symbolism in this movie, as Lena enters into the office of Paul Schaefer, of Pius. You've got, again, the Pope symbolism, okay, again being shown here, the hexagram, the pagan cross. So again, major connection, I believe, to the pagan Babylonian Roman Catholic Church being shown in this movie. Okay, so major predictive occultic programming going on in this movie. Okay, so I think that, I think we can already see clearly what is going on here. I would like to move into now the torture chambers that they had in this place. When Daniel, the main character, is taken to this place, we see him being tortured. He's tied to a bed. They pour water all over him. All these kinds of horrible things. We see him being hooked up to this machine. And of course, what is this man holding? These electric, electric conductors there in his hand, hooked up to this machine. And of course, what does he do with them? You can see Daniel being tied to the bed, what they're about to do to him. You see him getting ready as he's, got the electric current running through these two, things, these booster cables or whatever you want to call it. You can see the electric shock, that is there. So again, we can see, the torture that was being taken. They portrayed this really well. You can see, I hate to show this picture, but Daniel was tortured like crazy, through electric shock therapy. This is what they do to condition all the prisoners that come to this place, whether they're abducted. They want to ingrain them into their theology, into this, the mentality of this colony. So they are tortured until they conform, until their minds are broken, their spirits are broken, and they have to conform to the ways of this colony. And another thing I found really interesting about this place, or about this movie, is the underground tunnel system that was discovered by Paul. Okay, sorry, not by Paul, I'm sorry, by Daniel, the male main character. This person, once he escapes, he actually has to fake being retarded so that he can get out of the being tortured. He joins the colony, or seemingly they think he's joining the colony, but Daniel stumbles upon this underground system, this underground network, and he tells his girlfriend as they meet up in the colony that there is a whole different world, there is a whole secret underground system going on, a totally different world underground. Okay, he even sees, as he's looking through one of the tunnels, he sees other men of the colony wheeling away another body here that's being tortured, that's being put under the electric shock therapy to condition them to be part of the colony. You can see Daniel coming out of the underground tunnel system as well. Okay, then you can see as well as they're trying to escape, he he clings on to, grabs onto one of the barbed wire fences, and of course, what's there? Electric wiring there is on the fences, with the spotlights and the floodlights, so that they cannot escape. So major FEMA camp programming, I believe, is going on here, concentration style kind of FEMA camp stuff that I believe is being shown here. Crazy, stuff is being shown here, and we all know that. What I find interesting is that Wal-Mart is very, very much associated, with the Department of Homeland Security. We know that for a fact, okay, that this is happening on a, it is being shown very much so that Wal-Mart is involved with the DHS. What I found interesting is when I even just Googled, Wal-Mart and military, apparently it came out recently that they're hiring military vets all of a sudden. So what is up with that? Apparently, if you Google it, you can see you can join their military community, and they want to, they want to be the Wal-Mart is proud to power Green Light a Vet, shining a light on the strengths and values that veterans bring to our communities. Every one of them has earned our support and the opportunity to continue their mission. Now that path to success will be even brighter. So basically, Wal-Mart is hiring military vets. Okay, they are hiring hundreds of thousands of them. Okay, so here you go. They want to hire 250,000 veterans by 2020. I find that really interesting as to why are they doing that. We know that Wal-Mart is heavily involved with the DHS, with FEMA. In fact, Janet Napolitano, came out and said that a few years ago, that Wal-Mart is involved with the DHS heavily. Okay, so we can see what is, what they're showing here. Of course, is, many people are of the belief that there are major underground tunnels all throughout the U.S., possibly connected to Walmart stores. I'm not saying that it's a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if there is a major underground network of tunnels all throughout the U.S., possibly all throughout even Canada, or all throughout much of the world for that matter. Okay, I find interesting that even the Walmart Sprite or the Star of Ishtar is being shown, and even in these machines that they use to, to dig these kinds of tunnels. So, really what is going on here? We can see that even FEMA, it's a well-known fact that FEMA has camps all over the U.S. and Canada. I'm not sure about the rest of the world. I'm sure other countries are doing similar things, but FEMA camps are basically spread out all throughout the U.S. and Canada. So really, what are we being programmed for? What are we being shown here in this movie? I believe we're being shown FEMA camps. We're being predictively programmed for FEMA camps, for the underground tunnels and bases that I believe the military will be able to move back and forth very easily throughout the countries, whether it's Canada or the USA. I believe much stuff is being shown here big time. Okay, and another thing that we were speaking about before is the fact that children are taken away in the colony, that men and women are only allowed to, get together once in a while to have relations so that they can basically make babies, have children. Relations are strictly prohibited. They're being given a pill, as we saw before, before they go to bed. They all have to take a pill, before they go to sleep. So, the pill is basically to sedate them and to, let's see if I can even find that picture again. But the pill is basically to sedate them and to keep them so that they are, controlled and all that kind of thing. So, sorry, I can't find the picture. But anyways, it's interesting that even from 2013, this MSNBC person says that, she basically makes a notion that while you give birth to your child and feed and clothe them, they are only on loan to you by their true parent, a benevolent and all-knowing government. So basically, this person claims that the government is the true parent of the child, that this Melissa Harris Perry, an African-American professor at Tulane, has endorsed the concept of human ownership by the state, something we thought history would teach her is a bad thing. She's saying in a promo for MSNBC that we have to break through our kind of private idea that kids belong to their parents or kids belong to their families and recognize that kids belong to whole communities. Okay, so I find that very almost, not even almost, but very crazy, very scary, these things that are being shown to us, in the media. They really want to get across to us. And it's not just this person. I've seen this, being told by other government officials that children belong to the state, that they don't belong, to their parents. So the fact that even in this Colonia, that the boys and the children were separated from their parents, that they were raised by the leadership. Okay, so that to me raises red flags as, again, much predictive programming that is going on. okay, in this movie as to what is coming, that children are going to be taken away, that men and women will be segregated. They're not even going to be allowed to have relations with each other, only for specific purposes, for the purposes of procreating and having children, but those children will be taken away and will be raised by the leadership, raised by the government. Okay, so we can really see major, New World Order themes going on here, major controls, that the elites want to put onto all of us. Their big time agenda is being shown in this movie, and even later on we see that Lena and Daniel have to pretty much escape from this place. There's shots of them running, and when they finally get even to the German embassy in Chile, they literally have to escape. Even in the airport, they're being detained. They have to basically get one of these luggage carriers to escape to get onto the plane. And what I found really disturbing is that basically this Paul Schaefer, or Pius, who's basically a form of the Pope, or being shown symbolically as the Pope, or the Antichrist leader, has major connections to the army, to the military dictator himself, Pinochet. They're all in it together. The governments, along with this cult, are in it together. Okay, so basically showing to me the Hegelian dialectic, that you've got, the government or the cult leader making the problem, and then of course they provide the solution, but basically they're two sides of the same coin. And I believe, we're being shown this New World Order theme, this final kingdom that is going to arise, just as Daniel was shown in his vision. In Daniel chapter 7, he has a vision of the four kingdoms, and in the final kingdom is said that the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which shall be different from all other kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, trample it, and break it in pieces. Okay, and the 10 horns are 10 kings who shall arise from this kingdom, and another shall rise after them, and he shall be different from the first ones. He shall subdue 3. He shall speak pompous words against the Most High. He shall persecute the saints of the Most High. He shall intend to change times and law. Then the saints shall be given into his hand for a time, times, and half a time. So I believe that is what we are being shown here, that the rise of the New World Order is coming. Okay, that this Pius character in this movie, Paul Schaefer, or Pius, which is like a form of the Pope, or symbolically showing the Pope, or the New World Order Catholic takeover, I believe that is coming very soon. Okay, so this kingdom is going to trample and break down the entire world, and I believe this is coming very, very soon. Okay, so don't be fooled, because I believe that they want to cause all kinds of chaos in order to bring about their New World Order. I believe this movie is, again, amongst all the other movies, is basically telegraphing to us what is coming very soon. This New World Order is coming. It is being shown to us on a daily basis in all of this propaganda that is being pushed onto us. Out of the ashes will rise this New World Order. I believe a major, worldwide, I don't even want to use the word global because I don't even believe in the globe anymore, but a worldwide catastrophe, I believe, is coming very soon. Out of the ashes, this New World Order system will rise. I believe they're very close to accomplishing that. So I pray that if you are not in Christ, that you give your life to him today. This New World Order elite system is coming very soon. They want to enslave all of mankind. They want to show one good side and one bad side, but basically they're two sides of the same coin, and they are going to cause all kinds of chaos that I believe is coming very soon and is being shown in this movie big time. So if you don't know Christ, I pray that you turn your life to him today. If you claim to be a Christian, yet you are not truly following Christ, you're not following his commandments, you are not living for him, I pray that you surrender, you rededicate your life to Christ today, because I believe that the church is going to be taken very soon. One day, the true followers of Christ, of Yeshua HaMashiach, Jesus the Messiah, the deliverance of the Lord's people is coming very soon. And I believe that the people who don't believe are going to be left behind to face this horrible New World Order, this horrible takeover that comes very soon. So I pray that if you are not in Christ, may you surrender to him today. And if you are, may you follow him and serve him with all of your heart, mind, body, and soul. God bless you.